Okay, so from the Office of Transfer and Degree Acceleration and Academic Advising, this presentation today is on applying for transfer. And my name is Rachel DeLauder. I am an academic advisor at the Essex campus. Please feel free to ask any questions that you might have during the presentation, or you're welcome to just hang tight till the end and let me know your questions then. So today we will be going over completing the transfer application, how to request official transcripts from CCBC, making a final decision, financial aid and scholarships for transfer, and of course, Q&A. So completing the transfer application, there are a handful of different types of applications. There is one called the Common App. This is an online application that allows you to apply to up to and over 600 different colleges that accept this Common App for transfer. It allows you to submit information that can be dispersed to the colleges available through this app without having to repeat the process. There's the Common Black College App. This is an online application developed to aid lower income families in getting into college. The HBCU Common App allows students to apply to half of the nation's historically Black schools with just one application fee. The Coalition App is an online application. It's accepted at over 70 coalition schools. Students who receive the Pell Grant, they qualify for a coalition application fee waiver here. Then there are school-specific apps. Generally, this would be an online application provided specifically by the transfer institution of choice. Fee waivers for transfer applications, the NACAC, the Common App, and again, school-specific can provide a waiver. So it's important, when we're weighing our costs and benefits for transfer to consider this as an opportunity as well. Adding transfer schools to your FAFSA application. You can add up to 10 schools. So if you have somewhere that you're considering at the lower end of your list, still input it there to make things easier for you in the long run. If something happens and there's a school that you select at a later date, you can always add it in later. So common transfer application requirements are for official transcripts to be submitted and test scores. Requesting official transcripts for every school where you attended. Sometimes and often, more often than not, this would be the case where you may have began classes and not completed them, but you still were enrolled and registered for courses reflected on an official transcript at a previous institution, you'd still be required to submit that. If applicable, military transcripts must be submitted as well, and test scores for any credit granted through what's called prior learning, to include things like advanced placement, AP for short, the IB credits, college level exam program credits, CLEP for short, or the Dante's subject standardized tests. If you have questions about any other prior coursework or work experience that you're thinking may be able to be applied towards a program of study, you can always reach out and we will help you determine if that needs to be submitted as well. Letters of recommendation. Asking faculty with whom you have a strong rapport with, someone who you might have had a close connection with in one of your classes that you did great in. You would want to make sure they can speak to your accomplishments, specifically the academic skill and your abilities. You would always want to consider their busy schedules just like your own and give advance notice. 4 to 6 weeks would be recommended. Include the information the faculty will need in your request. So when you're asking someone to write a letter of recommendation for you, you could provide a summary of your accomplishments or a statement to provide context. You could provide them a copy of your resume and tailor it towards the items that you would like them to consider when writing this letter of recommendation for you. It's also something to keep in mind to not feel intimidated to ask for a letter of recommendation. This is very common, and instructors, professors should be, if you had this, if you had a successful time in their class with them, they should typically be pleased to help you by providing a letter of recommendation. Your essay. You would want to plan ahead and leave time to have your essay reviewed. You can always seek assistance in CCBC's Student Success Center. Not all transfer institutions would require an essay. Sometimes it is optional, but we encourage you to provide an essay. And beyond spelling and grammatical errors, you would want to make sure it meets the requirements if there are any, and if it's optional and it gives you suggested things to consider. You can always meet with the writing center or an advisor or an instructor possibly to talk further about what maybe to include. Requesting an official transcript from CCBC comes through your My CCBC Simon account under your Students tab. You can meet with an academic advisor and we can assist you in navigating how to find that in your Simon account. The registrar's office also can provide a handout, a paper copy of directions with how to access through your account. Making a decision about transfer. There are plenty of things to consider. Comparing costs is very important. You want to consider transfer credits. How will what you've accomplished through prior learning or at CCBC or the two combined will transfer towards your program of study at that institution? So what credits will they accept towards completion for your degree? Consider were you offered financial aid and or any scholarships and how that might differ with other institutions you've been admitted to and how that relates in comparison to the actual tuition itself, because schools are not all going to have the same tuition rates. You would want to consider which of your options best meet your needs. So your needs can be personal to things like how big is the campus? Do they have athletics? Can you live on campus or is it a commuter college? To what programs do they have? How are their programs ranked? What's the graduation rate? You would also want to consider if you've actually visited the institution. It's important. You want to know if you'd feel comfortable there. And can you visualize yourself on the campus? Sometimes it isn't possible to get access to actually visiting the campus. Let's say it's out of state or it's a bit too far. Often schools will provide virtual tours of the campus, something to look into. Accepting your admissions. You do need to formally accept the admissions offered by the institutions by a deadline that they provide. If you've been admitted to a school and you decide to postpone transfer and a whole year goes by, you would need to reapply to that institution. Submit the required deposits, and if you have questions about that, connecting with their bursar's office or their financial aid office, even admissions, an admissions counselor at that institution can always act as a liaison for you to connect you to the appropriate office if you're feeling a bit unsure. Accept your financial aid and scholarships. Again, if you ever have questions about how to do these things, the admissions counselor at that institution can help you determine who you need to speak with to sort it out. Inquire about orientation. academic advising and registration. So seeking to find out when will you register for classes, who will be helping you with that, how will they be guiding you towards course selection, getting comfortable with that process early on at that new school so that it is something you're used to for your future semesters. And figuring out the logistics before the start of classes. You may be an online student, you may be a virtual remote or an on-site student when you transfer, figuring out all of the ins and outs of what that's going to feel like at your new school. Things to keep in mind: to see an advisor at CCBC during your planning of transfer so that we can provide a pre-graduation audit for you if you're planning to consider transfer prior to graduation, meeting with an academic advisor so we can go over also what staying to graduate might look like for you, what's the benefit there, or how will your credits be transferring, and making sure that you've met all the minimum requirements needed in that case. If you are planning to graduate prior to transfer, which we encourage you to consider, applying for graduation by the deadline and then paying the fee. Requesting your final transcript is another very important factor here. We already went over making sure you send your official transcript at time of application. But if you're currently enrolled in courses, your transfer might be contingent on your final grades, and very well and often can be. So we need to send that institution a final copy of your updated transcripts for post your last semester here with us. Financial aid and scholarships for transfer. We will talk a little bit about the differences there. For FAFSA, you have your state aid. This is what qualifies for scholarships and grants. Federal aid, which offers the Pell Grant. It offers loans and work study to students. And institutional aid. This would be school-specific scholarships. Timeline, things to consider. Your FAFSA opens up every year on October 1st. The state aid has a deadline of March 1st, and school deadlines vary. So what is the difference between everything that we just discussed there? Scholarships are gifts that don't need to be repaid. They're often offered by the schools themselves or employers, individuals, private companies, nonprofits, religious groups, and professional and social organizations. Again, think gift. It's for you. It's nothing to be returned later. A scholarship can cover the entire cost of tuition, or it can be a one-time award. Either way, it's worth applying to reduce the cost of your education to any scholarship that you may be eligible for. Some are merit-based. That means that a student is required to meet certain standards set by the scholarship provider. Some are based on financial need, as determined by your FAFSA once completed or CSS profile. Many scholarships are geared towards specific groups, like underrepresented populations, such as women and minorities or non-traditional students, and active military or affiliated students. Some may be available through your parents' place of employment. These are just examples. There are plenty and unlimited opportunities there. When to apply? Applying in February for May, August graduates, or applying in October for December, January graduates. One more thing to consider as well, when you're looking at your receiving institutions scholarships, looking for program-specific scholarships. So let's say a student's transferring to Towson, but they're going to major in business. Looking on the Towson's website, not only for institutional scholarships, but does the business department offer scholarship opportunity specific only to those majors? Private scholarship examples here on this page are listed. So tips for applying to financial aid and scholarships. Deciding if you're going to live on campus or off campus or commute. Again, reviewing the cost of attendance to include not just your tuition, your fees, your room and board, books, supplies, transportation. Will you have a meal plan, or will you be living somewhere where you'll need to set aside finances for groceries? Calling on those faculty with whom you have that strong relationship with to write scholarship letters of recommendation. Again, have any required or optional essays reviewed through the Writing and Literacy Center or the online writing lab, or anyone in your life with a strong writing background. If you had an English instructor and that's the person you're asking to write your letter of recommendation for you, they may be flattered if you ask them to review your essay. Staying organized, adhering to deadlines, and following up as needed. I was mentioning earlier that an admissions counselor at your receiving institution, your transfer school, is going to be happy to act as a liaison for you and their campus resources. Similarly, at CCBC, an academic advisor can help you determine any extra steps or resources that may be available for you as you're navigating this experience. So thank you for listening today. Here on this page are contacts for transfer coordinators at Essex and Owings Mills and Catonsville. We also have contacts for the Director of Transfer and Degree Acceleration, as well as the Assistant Director for Transfer at the Dundalk campus. My name, again, is Rachel. I'm Rachel DeLauder, an academic advisor at CCBC on the Essex campus. I am also available for virtual appointments. I'm available on campus for drop-in or by email if you have any further questions for me. So I wanted to thank you again and give you the option to ask any questions if you have them for me today. Otherwise, it was nice to have you on this call.
Thank you. I did have a question about
Sure.
getting in touch with an advisor. So would I just email anyone that was on that list?
Yeah, I would recommend that, I mean, since it's just you and I on this call right now, I can provide my email in the chat for you. And you can just send me your student ID number by email and your availability, and we can set up a call, or we can set up a drop-in appointment or a face-to-face appointment if that works for you. But otherwise, you're welcome to just contact the advising center and they'll set up a meeting with you.
Okay, thank you. Can you give me your email, please?
I just put it in the chat for you there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.